Mhm. We are here together with Maureen Murdock, and we've already been talking and been blessed by her presence here. I I think that it's really shared experience. Thank you, Maureen, once again for taking up the invitation and being here with us.
Well, thank you. I'm really thrilled to be with all of you. So it's a real pleasure for me.
I will just say for people here that recording with Polish subtitles, if someone will need it, will be provided and available on Friday or Saturday. Okay, and let me read your bio maybe first. Maybe we can introduce you to many of them because I've read many of your books, but someone maybe here who doesn't know Maureen. Maureen is a psychotherapist and writer and teacher and author of 8 books, I believe. I I found 8. Uh,
That's
the heroine's journey in Polish, it's Podróż, bohaterki for everyone here. She's also an artist, a photographer. You need to look up her, look for her website and find you will find some photographs really beautiful. Maureen has taught creative writing, memoir, mythology, and depth psychology at Pacifica Graduate Institute and in workshop worldwide. Impressive, really impressive, Maureen. Would you like to add something?
well, I could add that my latest book is called Myth Making, MYTH, making self-discovery and the excuse me, timeless art of memoir writing.
Mm.
And I've been teaching memoir writing since the early 1990s. And it's been wonderful to see the evolution of women's voices. So I'm really pleased to see back in the 90s, we didn't really want to tell the truth of our story, and now we do. And so people are beginning to understand what women's journeys are a little bit more.
That's true. That's true. And you published your book 35 years ago.
The
The
heroine story.
heroines. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
And that's what you primarily want to focus on. Is that correct?
Yes, because we have this in Polish, and it's the most universal maybe for us. But I believe um, that the myth making and fathers daughters also are equally important. So, but you published this book 35 years ago. I was born in 1990, so for me it's kind of wow. um,
So you were reading it in your cradle.
yes. I hope so. And I would like to start with the foundations, maybe. What are the differences between the hero's journey, man's journey, and the heroine's journey for you?
Okay. I think since most people haven't read the book, it would be good to tell its origin story, how it came to be.
Do it.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Mm.
So maybe some of you have read Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces. Have any of you read that? If you did, raise your hand. Oh, okay, great, great.
Mm.
Well, I had studied with him in the 1980s. He used to come out from New York to Santa Barbara, where I live now, and he would do workshops. And anyway, the hero with a thousand faces, what he did was gather a lot of the hero myths across cultures and created what he called was a monomyth, like a map that showed the journey of the hero. One of the aspects of it was the call. In other words, what are you called to in your life? And do you accept that call, or do you refuse that call over and over? And and then the hero goes on this journey, meeting allies and adversaries and going through trials and tribulations, and finally gets the boon of success, meaning some reward, which could be perhaps integration. It didn't have to be a physical award, but a, a transpersonal reward, coming in touch with one's own psyche deeply. And then the rest of the journey is coming home again through trials and tribulations, and finally getting to the starting point, feeling like the master of both worlds, the inner world and the outer world. Well, I had been working with that monomyth or map in my clinical practice with groups of men and women. And over a year, we went through the 10 stages of the hero's journey. And it didn't feel like it really touched what the wounding of the feminine was, which was a deep cultural as well as personal wounding. So I developed the heroine's journey. And for those of you, have some of you seen the book?
Yes, it's like half of.
Oh, okay. So then you've seen the map of the heroine's journey. Okay. For those of you who haven't, I'm just going to describe it rather quickly. It starts.
You talk about this one?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. If maybe you could hold that up.
Okay.
Yeah, would you do that? Thank you. So it starts with the separation from the feminine. And I wonder if I held it up too. Hold on.
Do you want me to read that, or do you have it? I have it in the workbook.
Oh, you have, but that's a pretty big, oh, good. Okay. And Aliska held it up as well. That's helpful to me. I appreciate that. The first stage is the separation from the feminine. And what I meant by that at the time was that culturally, our culture, and yours are really focused on the journey of the hero, meaning achievement, moving forward all of the time. And the separation from the feminine happens on an individual level if one's mother or the women in one's life have been negative or passive or controlling or denigrating. And what happens to the little girl, all of a sudden she doesn't feel as worthy as the masculine, as the her brothers or her father or her coaches. So the second stage is that identification with the masculine, meaning putting her hopes and dreams on achievement, whether it's achievement of school or corporation or artistic endeavors or athletic endeavors or relationship endeavors or mothering endeavors, very goal oriented. And this is what's really happened in our cultures now. In fact, that's why some of these political leaders get into public office, because the whole culture has become very achievement oriented and asserting oriented. So the next stage is called the trials. And those could be the trials of one's outer life, whether it's getting a particular degree or having a particular show or having a particular relationship. It's jumping through all the hoops that we have to jump through to achieve what we want to do. But on the inner level, what I wrote about was the myth of inferiority, the myth of dependency, and the myth of romantic love. And what I meant by those were, particularly in terms of the myth of inferiority or deficit thinking, that we are not enough as we are. And culture backs that up, where you feel like you have to work as hard as a man or work as hard as the culture tells you to do. And it becomes more of a personal feeling of not being enough rather than a cultural feeling of not being enough. Mm-hmm. So people come to therapy or to counseling feeling a sense of letdown, that they've done everything they tried to do, but they still don't feel a deep sense of satisfaction. And I think it's harder for women than it is for men to feel that deep sense of satisfaction. It seems like we're always trying to climb the next mountain or trying to achieve the next goal. So then what happens? Well, so that's the myth of inferiority. We're not inferior, but that is embedded in our psyches. There's also the myth of dependency, meaning that we allow others to be dependent upon us for approval. And we very rarely allow ourselves to feel dependent on someone else. So we're always taking care of people or organizations. And then the myth of romantic love, meaning he or she will complete myself, whether it's a person, whether it's an ideology, whether it's getting a certain degree. There's always the yearning for the next thing. And like I said, a very little satisfaction with what one has done. Part of that is that we don't acknowledge each other's skills and achievements. Anyway, so the next stage is a feeling of spiritual aridity. I've done everything I was supposed to do, and why do I feel so empty? And that usually leads to what I've called the descent, which is something usually activates the descent, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the loss of a pet, loss of a friend, a geographic move away from community, an illness, an accident. Something changes, and what happens in the descent is all of the feelings that were cut off in that initial separation of the feminine come up, whether it's anger, whether it's rage, whether it's sadness, whether what we need to reclaim is a connection to our bodies, to our creativity. And the time in the descent can last for days, it can last for months, it can last for years, because we're doing the deep work of the psyche. And I'm sure probably many of you who have gone through a descent, is that correct?
I believe that there are many here who do the dream work and deep work, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can't avoid it. The next stage is the urgent yearning to reconnect with the feminine. And what I meant by that was, how would you define the female, the feminine woman to yourself, rather than the way it has been defined in the culture? And it's oftentimes a time when women come together to talk about their lives, like you're doing with this gathering once a month, finding community. And community is so important right now, finding compassion for ourselves and each other. So there's that stage. And then the next stage is healing the mother daughter split. And what I meant by that is becoming a good mother to yourself. And if there was a difficult relationship with your mother, trying to heal that, whether she's alive or not, or if it's a daughter that you've had a difficult relationship with, trying to heal that, whether she's alive or not, and beginning to honor your woman line, your female line. You know, what are the gifts of your female line, your grandmothers, your great grandmothers? And the next stage is called healing the unrelated masculine. We all have a masculine part of ourselves. We have a feminine and a masculine part of ourselves. And we usually project negativity on the men in our lives without looking at some of the same qualities within ourselves. Like, there's part of us that's probably aggressive, there's part of us that's probably controlling, there's probably a part of us that's competitive. So what I have always looked at in myself is the driver, the part of me that doesn't let me stop, that pushes me until I get sick. And where did that come from? It came from watching my father, who was an advertising executive, working 12 to 18 hours a day. And it seemed like there was always the next thing that had to be done, the next campaign. So I've seen that quality within myself and really have tried to work on healing it. And then also bringing the positive aspects of the masculine into your own psyche. Like in Jungian terms, the masculine is the bridge between image and actualization, between a fantasy and an actualization. You know, what are the positive aspects of your masculine nature? Archetypally, the masculine is about protection and provision. So, how do you protect yourself? And how do you provide for yourself instead of waiting to be taken care of? And the last stage, which is called the sacred marriage or the union of the masculine and feminine, is starting to be aware of bringing both masculine and feminine qualities within yourself. And there's a wonderful story. It's called the Navajo creation story, Changing Woman, which I'd like to read to you because it illustrates the union of masculine and feminine. So, Changing Woman speaks to her consort or partner, the sun, and she says, remember, as different as we are, you and I, we are of one spirit. As dissimilar as we are, you and I, we are of equal worth. As unlike as you and I are, there must always be solidarity between the two of us. Unlike each other as you and I are, there can be no harmony in the universe as long as there is no harmony between us. If there is such harmony, my requests must matter to you. My needs are as important to me as yours are to you. My whims count as much as yours do. My fidelity to you is measured by your loyalty to me. My response to your needs is to reflect the way you respond to me. There is to be nothing more coming from me to you than there is from you to me. There is to be nothing less. That was the Navajo creation story, Changing Woman.
Thank you for that.
It's really such a beautiful metaphor for the marriage of masculine and feminine. That there has to be equality for balance.
Maybe we can go to my last question. We can start from the end. Because this heroine's journey leads toward this integration of feminine and masculine, as you said. And what does that integration look like in lived experience?
That's a really difficult question to answer.
I know, but people will ask.
Yeah, it's really bringing balance into your life, which is not so easy. Balance through whether it's yoga or meditation or being in nature, but starting to be aware of how out of balance you are, whether it's overeating, over drinking, overspending, overworking, over sex, whatever it is that bringing nurturance to yourself? Or are you always trying to catch up? So if you're always trying to catch up, you're not in balance. So that integration of, really looking at yourself. Can you be assertive rather than aggressive? Looking at the different qualities. How do you define yourself as a woman? And what are the qualities that you admire in the men or more masculine women that you know? So it's all about balance. Balance and acceptance that you're perfect exactly the way you are.
And you wrote also that every woman needs to find her validation and her inner source of validation.
Yes.
Somehow connected to that also.
Yeah. So how do you value yourself? I mean, we don't think about that question very often. One time in one of my memoir classes, I had an 80-year-old woman who she was in class with me for a couple of years. And then one day she said, writing about my life, I realized it had value. And I was so struck by that when I was probably in my 40s at the time that she said that. And part of me was so sad that she hadn't validated her life until she was in her 80s. But that's why I said before we need support from each other to say, you know, you're doing a good job and that's enough.
That's true. That came deep.
Right, right.
Right.
I have a friend, a writer friend, artist friend who lives in Kentucky, which is about 3,000 miles away from where I live. And we meet on the phone. We try to meet like every 6 or 8 weeks. We created the No Society, NO, where we're helping each other to say no to too many obligations. And so lots of times when some request comes up, I'll call Susan and say, I need to call a meeting of the No Society. I got this offer from Darla, who I don't know, who asked me if I would do a talk with hundreds of women. What do you think? Should I do it? And she'll say, well, does it give service? And I'll say yes. And she'll say, well, will it be fun? And I'll say, I don't know. It'll really depend upon the group of women. And she'll say, well, do you want to do it? In this case, I would say yes, but oftentimes when that question comes up, no, I don't want to do it, but I feel an obligation. Women always feel an obligation. So that's why it's good to have a partner to start your own No Society.
We are going to start it here. We are going to have a group for No Society. Are you saying yes to that people here? Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah.
I love it, and I love it. And you really belong to this community. I have to say that.
Oh, thank you.
One woman from this group is meeting now another woman in this group, but they have a meeting in capital in Warszawa, in Warsaw now, and they said sorry for not being with Maureen, but we have the only time to be together now and meet in Warsaw. They met within our group, like online first, but they met each other now. They are meeting each other now in Warsaw, and I said, "Yes, you are forgiven for that, of course." But it was lovely that they thought about each other and said no to our meeting now, because there will be recording, and one of them said, "Daria, you have this Baobo energy. You know Baobo." So you can use it if you need it with Maureen. And you say
in your skirt.
Yeah. I can do that too, but not with those people. Here are some people I don't know, so no. So we are not going to do that.
Okay.
But
okay.
we have those meetings with fun, because we cannot tolerate meeting with only obligation. So I love that you bring No Society here. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm so glad too. Yes, and this thing about myth, in depth psychology, we talk much about personal myth. Jung was talking about personal myth, and can you say something more about myth and personal myth? Maybe there are many people who are looking for answers here, and maybe we can talk about that too.
Well, that's a big topic. One of the reasons I wrote Myth Making was starting to look at the archetypes or patterns in one's life that repeat over and over and over again, which may have archetypal significance. Like in terms of writing memoir, many people will write about their relationship with their mother, or a relationship with their father, or a relationship with the child. And that is a mythic theme. Whether it's the separation from the mother, it sounds like you've already looked at the Demeter Persephone myth since you brought up Baba.
Yeah.
But I know for a lot of my women writers, looking at that particular myth, looking at how the mother, Demeter, in that myth, was willing to destroy the whole earth until she got her daughter back, is a theme that comes up in people's writing. You know, would my mother go to that extreme of destroying the whole earth to get me back? Is so. I mean, there's one of the women in my Thursday writing group has been writing about the influence of her grandmother and mother, who both went through world wars. Grandmother went through the First World War. Her mother went through the Second World War as teenagers. So they really didn't know anything about mothering. They were just trying to survive and work during those wars. But she's been writing and also in therapy doing a lot of work on feeling unmothered. And she didn't really realize that it had a cultural element. Of course, her mother and grandmother didn't know how to mother her. They were going through the Blitz and had jobs and had never been mothered themselves. So in that, she's been looking at the separation from the feminine. Other writers, this woman named Peggy, she wrote a memoir about Sister Lucille, who was her high school, I think, math teacher, and the relationship with her. She said that Lucille was the first woman that told her she could make her own choices, because growing up in a Catholic family and a Catholic culture in the Midwest, those choices were made for her. And what Peggy started to realize in writing this is that it sparked her understanding of unfairness. And so, Daria, you asked about the call. In writing that piece, she realized at 17 years old that she was called to try to deal with the injustices in the world. So she became a lawyer. She was the first female litigator in Los Angeles in the 70s. But she didn't realize that's why she chose to do that until she wrote it. I'm getting off your topic of myth. I guess the main thing is looking at different mythic themes. Like I did talk about relationship, child to parent. There's the journey, which is a mythic theme. There's betrayal, which is a mythic theme. There is crossing the threshold, which is a mythic theme. There is the descent, which is a mythic theme. There is death. There is all of those are mythic themes, and you might see them in being enacted in your own life, in your own relationships. So once another archetype that's very strong is home. What is home? How do I find home? How do I leave home? It's a continuing mythic theme. Also, wounding is a mythic theme. Exile is a mythic theme. And spirituality is a mythic theme. All of those live within us and at different times in our lives come to the surface and want to be enacted, whether through ritual, writing, art, dance, whatever one chooses. Does that touch on what you were asking, Daria?
Yes, you say something about finding your connection to some myths, to some
Finding connection.
to some myths and archetypal motives. Mm, mm. And when a woman come to the point in her life when she starts asking questions like those questions you wrote in your newest book, who am I? Who are my people? What is my journey? And where is home?
What is my purpose?
And what is my purpose? Yes. What do you say to her? Do you say just start to write or what?
Well, people who write about birth or naming or origins are oftentimes writing about who am I. Many people write about what is my tribe, who are my people. That's another universal theme. Let me backtrack a little bit. These 4 questions, which you might want to write down, really come out of Joseph Campbell's work.
Okay.
When he was looking at all of the different myths throughout the cultures, he came up with 4 domains of myth. Who am I? And those are usually creation myths. So, on a personal level, it could be, what does your name mean? Or where were you born? Or what was happening when you were born? What is your origin myth? The second is, who are your people? And I think that's become more and more important. What is your tribe? Is your people maybe your family of origin, but it may be the tribe or the group that you have created yourself, including this particular group. The next is, what is your journey? Like, where are you on your journey psychologically now? How have you been called? How have you refused the call? And has the call come up over and over and over again, asking you, do you have enough courage now to answer the call? And then, who are the allies and adversaries in your life? And who are the ally and adversary parts of yourself? What trials have you been through? And how have you succeeded or failed in your life? We learn as much from failure as we do from success. And, what has been the boon or the treasure that you have sought? And have you been able to achieve that within yourself? So, all of these different parts of the journey. And of course, the last part is how and how do you find home after taking this journey? Has home become something different for you? Is there a need to what Campbell talks about is what is the treasure that you bring to home, and how do you now understand yourself and your journey? And then the last of the 4 is, what is my purpose? And we don't know that at all in the beginning. Just like that story I told you about Peggy, she didn't find that she had a purpose all along until she wrote that very first piece about Sister Lucille. If you'd like, I can read you a couple of excerpts from Myth Making where the women talked about their purpose or their call. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, do it. Read for us. Thank you.
Okay. There's a poet, some of you may know her name. It's Joy Harjove. She's from the Creek Nation. She's Native American from Oklahoma. She wrote a book called Crazy Brave. That's her memoir. And I was so happy to find this because most people don't write about their call or talk about it, but she did. She writes in Crazy Brave, Joy Harjo writes about knowing she was called to become a poet, to tell the stories of her people, the Muscogee, the Creek Nation in Oklahoma. Quote, I was entrusted with carrying voices, songs, and stories to grow and release into the world, to be of assistance and inspiration. We each have our own individual soul story to tend. I became the healer. I became the patient. I became the poem. I became aware of an opening within myself in a fast, narrow crack of perception. I knew this is what I was put here to do. I must become the poem, the music, and the dancer. I would not truly understand how for a long, long time. This is when I began to write poetry. So it was the poetry that called her. I mean, that's such a beautiful way to describe it. Another one is Myra Shapiro, who's also a poet. She, in her 50s, she decided she wanted to be a poet. She had been a high school teacher and lived in Tennessee, but she wanted to move to New York and become a poet at 50. She was called to be a poet. Four Sublets, Becoming a Poet in New York, is her love story about poetry, the poetic life, and becoming a writer in New York is the tale of a spirited woman in midlife who had raised two daughters and now yearns to create the life of a poet that she longed for as a wife and as a mother. And I have one other very short one I want to read you because this is the very beginning of a book written by Mary Jane Nealon, Nealon. Her book is called Beautiful Unbroken. And her first sentence is, as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a nurse or a saint. I wanted to be heroic. she writes about the fact that growing up, she realized that she wasn't going to be able to be a saint. So she decided that to be heroic, she would be a nurse. And she was a nurse during the AIDS epidemic in New York. So, but she knew as a little girl that there was something bigger for her in wanting to be heroic. So I bet many of you have a sense of call or calling or purpose that maybe you haven't explored yet. Anybody? Katerina? Katerina, do you want to Can she be unmuted so she can
I
speak?
cannot because I don't have her consent for the recording, so she cannot. She has to write.
You have to write about your purpose,
Yes, she has
but
to write
thank
in
you
the
for
chat.
raising your hand.
Oh, I love it. But what I hear from women here often is that I have been called to be a doll maker. Yes, that's true. That this Katerina, you see. Oh, um, she was she had been called to be a doll maker, and you. In your workbook, you have this exercise about making dolls, don't you?
Oh, right, in the workbook.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Both mask making and doll making.
mm,
Yeah, the mask making, the inside of the mask,
mm,
we had the women paint their interior,
mhm,
their feelings, their hopes and dreams. And on the outside of the mask, what we had them paint was how they appeared to others in their lives, what their facade is.
mm.
And how do you bring the two of those together, the facade and what is your true nature?
That's yeah. And what I often hear from women here is that they may be they are seeking, they may be hear their calling or someone something is calling, and but but they cannot hold the tension. I think that in Jungian psychology, we talk much about holding the tension and the transcendent function, and you know all about that. But this holding opposites and holding the tension, and maybe going through the darkness enough. I don't know, as much time as it's needed. It's
Right.
something we don't do. It's something we maybe withdraw ourselves before it's the light is coming. Metaphorically, of course, said that. Um,
Well, that's usually because of fear.
mm,
And so it's a matter of what are you truly afraid of? And the excuses we usually give are I can't do it. I don't have the resources.
mm,
They won't let me. I'm too old. I'm too young. Um, I'm too scared. It mainly comes down to the fear factor. And what we have to do is develop enough faith in our own psyches that psyche knows exactly what she's calling you to do. And psyche will give you all of the support that you need. But it's a matter of trust and faith and developing that. And also talking to your community, your friends, and saying, you know, I really feel called to do this, but I don't know how.
mm,
Can you help me? You
yes.
know, reaching out for support and help. I don't think, oftentimes, I think women feel like they have to do it all themselves.
Mm.
So it's um, looking for community.
That's true, and this part of surrendering, as you said, our ego has to surrender. We need to
Yeah.
surrender to the self, and
And we have to surrender our concept of time. You know, what is the right time to follow the call?
mm,
Um, and not feel like I've got to do it by a certain time.
mm, mm. Do you think we have time?
Yes, I do.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Another difficult question.
Wait a minute, let me give you an example.
Okay.
I went back to get my PhD at age 60. So that was really late.
And you wrote your book. You've been, like 8 years?
It took
Heroin?
me 8 years. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. The heroine's journey took me 8 years
8 years.
because it takes time.
It takes time. It's good to hear that. It takes time. Mm.
Yeah, because I had two children. I was a single mother and I had a full practice and I only wrote on Thursday mornings. So there are.
Can
So
you say more about that? Because I love this story. Can you say more about Thursday mornings?
well, that was the day that I could take off. Um, and so that was a sacred day for me. Uh, at that time, we didn't have as many distractions from uh, emails and from social media. And so while my children were in school, I had silence and I was able to write. But I made an appointment with my writer every Thursday. And sometimes I was able to write, and oftentimes I was able to read. And so I just had to have the patience. The other thing, the reason it took 8 years is because I had a women's group for those 8 years, and I was working through the stages of the heroine's journey with them.
Mm.
So it was a collective endeavor.
Mm. Very beautiful story for us and for me, because I have this group here and then also a bigger group, and we had some free program from me about money. Woman has money, and in Poland, when you say woman has money, it's like, what are you saying? It's not true. Man has money, but not woman. And so it was very, very big to say. But we gathered together, and I talked about archetypes that we have. Maybe we have the queen inside who needs to arrange her castle with money, and but maybe we have also those people who inside us, our part, who is always poor, or always poor, and we need to talk with her. We have this part of ourselves who goes to work and is middle class, and we have also this part of ourselves, this archetype, which is connected to divine and wanted to be in church, and wanted to be in development group, and doesn't want to go to work and earn money and talk about money. And they asked me about, and we have the fourth one, the man, masculine. We have the alchemist. And I found out, I just dreamt about it. So, and we had this program now 3 years, and they speak to me that I have to write a book, and I try, but it takes time.
It takes time and it's hard work. It's very hard.
It's very, and those voices that, oh, don't write a book.
Yeah,
So,
those voices. You have to send voices like that on vacation. Send them to Hawaii so that they have a nice, relaxing time. And they can only come back when it's time to edit the book.
that's a good one. I say it also to other people, but now I have to say it to myself.
Right, right. So I just need to tell you, I have to leave in about 2 minutes.
Yes. Then we are not going to talk about the descent, but the descent into the dark forest. What are your last words about the descent?
The descent, as I said before, takes time. You can't rush the descent. I call it a sacred journey. Clinicians call it depression, but it is a sacred journey to reclaim those lost parts of yourself, um, no matter what that is. Um, for a lot of women, it's their sexuality because maybe at some point in their girlhood that was abused. So it's reclaiming those parts of self that were lost. Um, and read the Inanna Ereshkigal myth. That's in the heroine's journey, but there's also many books about Inanna. It's just a wonderful book that gives you hope about coming back from the descent with all of your powers, all of your understandings of what you've been doing down there in the descent. But don't be afraid.
Thank you. It was such a gift, Maureen. I hope you will come in 9 months when we are done with your book.
Oh, I'd be really interested in hearing what you all had to
I
say.
hope you will say yes to and not no to society. And we are in touch. You can stay here for now. We can talk in Polish after that
Okay.
to other people. Thank you, Maureen. We are
Thank you. And
thank
thank you for all the hearts that are coming up. I don't know how to do that.
you.
Otherwise, oh, that's so
And
fun. Thank
we
you.
love you here. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Mm.